hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Here it is Monday, and I look at the news today, and it's all little fluff stories. Fluff, 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 fluff.
The weekends are like that sometimes. Either you're having like a major strike on Israel or something like that, or it's quiet. But I got a feeling a big shoe is about to drop. Don't you feel that way?
Yeah, I feel that way. And we have had some major shoes drop when we felt that way. I dare guess what it is because you never know. I mean, there's some weird stuff going on in the news.
There are.
California.
Bill, they were complaining about the protest on the campuses, Columbia, Yale, places like that. Bill, they cover their faces with masks. A lot of these people.
They do that all the time.
Well, how do we know they're even students on the campus?
Well, they're not. The one that's on Gateway Pundit. I sat there and I said,
you mean the one that's on Newsmax?
Or Newsmax, yeah. Well, I said, let's blow this bad boy up. So I did. And I'm going, well, that's not a kid. That's about a 45-year-old man with a mustache and maybe a little bit of a beard goatee.
Completely covered with a black
completely
mask.
Covered, and I think that's his wife behind him, might be in her 40s. And I'm sitting there going, because her mask really didn't cover because she had those big, now that's another thing. The young protest kids, they don't have those glasses that she had, the big round ones. Those are old lady glasses there. So just saying, that's all.
Well, the media, if you're protesting on campus, you're a student. That's all they need. No one goes around and finds out whether these are real students. All they equate you being on the campus for being that's exactly right. You are a student because you're on the campus. Now, mind you, I think it was Columbia. Columbia said, or was it Yale? No, it was Columbia. They said to the Jewish students, hey, stay off the campus. Now, how would you like to be sending your kid to Columbia, spending, tens of thousands of dollars so they get a good education, and have the student administration say to your child, it's too dangerous for you to be here, so don't come to class. That's what they're saying on the university campus.
Well, they're bullying everybody at Harvard to Harvard. They have such class there. They burn the American flag.
Of course.
And
oh my God! You went to Harvard.
Yes, and we burned the flag while we were there.
And which one?
The American flag. Why would you have any other flag?
Yeah.
I mean, my God, man, you should burn that thing because we're Harvard. We know better. We know Hamas is a good thing.
Oh, my God. We've got some major problems. See, here's what a responsible college administration should do. Now, call me crazy.
You're crazy, Jim.
Thank you very much. Get it off your chest. I'm an old guy, but if I were the president of those colleges, I would say, effective immediately, there will be no protests on our campuses. Period. I don't care what you're protesting. We have a problem with protesting. It's causing a disruption in what we are charged with doing, and that's teaching the students here, like the different courses that we promised we'd teach them. So, effective immediately, there will be no protests. And if there are protests, anybody caught protesting who is a student will be expelled. Anybody who is caught protesting who isn't a student will be arrested. Period. End of sentence. Let's move on.
Well, that would be nice, but that ain't going to happen at Harvard.
No, because you see, at Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Brown and Columbia, of course, they're too enlightened, you see. Of course, they're too enlightened.
And if you get in trouble for, what's that nasty word, protest?
My God.
We'll show you how to turn those cards around in your favor.
You know what? Could it be that the most narrow-minded students in the United States are the ones that are going to those universities? Think about it for a second. And, we have kids who are going to state schools, and they're actually still going to class, learning about physics and sociology and economics and all those silly things. But my God, those at Yale and Harvard, they're getting such a broad-minded education by, dare I say, protesting about what's happening in the world. They have people on those campuses with their face covered yelling into the cameras because, the media loves it. It's a show. They yell, "We are Hamas."
Only criminals hide their face.
I'd be willing to bet you, Bill, that they couldn't find the Gaza Strip if it was the only thing highlighted on the whole map. Some of these people haven't got a clue. I think they should say to them, look, if you are really Hamas, why don't waste your time over here? My God, you're in the U.S. We will give you a one-way ticket to Israel where, because we're a generous country, we will bus you free of charge from Tel Aviv all the way to the Gaza Strip. And there you can join in solidarity with your friends. Show the fact you really are Hamas. Don't just talk about it on a college campus. Come on. These people have got to see. If you live long enough, history does repeat itself. I point specifically to, I've been around since, I can remember the student rioting in the 60s. A lot of the same campuses, by the way, the Democratic National Convention, 1967, big friggin' deal for rioting and trouble. And what's coming up in a few months? The Democratic Convention, and I think it's in Chicago this year. Could this be history repeating itself again? What do you think?
Most likely, but those aren't going to be demonstrations. You know that.
What are they going to be?
Rallies, pep rallies.
Oh, yes.
Pep rallies for the Democrats and hate rallies for the Trump.
They'll show their solidarity, yes.
There's solidarity. I mean, they have, look, words matter.
Yes.
But to them, they matter. To us, they're criminalizing, and I am getting tired of all of the name casting and it's really funny that the person that is acting like a dictator is his side and him are calling the other side the dictator, but yet everything he's done, the policies he puts forth, are all dictatorial.
Yeah.
I'm just like, come on. Can you not see it? Well, no, you've got so much hate.
Well, let me give you, Bill, an example. This past week, Joe Biden stopped at a Sheetz store. A Sheetz store.
Talk about a Sheetz store. My son works at a Sheetz.
He goes into a Sheetz store to get his picture taken because, he figures there's a lot of like-minded people in the Sheetz store.
No.
And nobody was there. He could have gone unnoticed had it not been for the gaggle of press that followed him in.
And you know what he's doing now?
Oh, I do. Well, Bill.
He's sewing the sheets.
Yes.
Now, in case you're going, what the sheet are they talking about? Sheets. Sheetz.
Yes.
That is a name. It's a family name.
Yes.
They're from the Allentown, Johnstown area.
Yes, they are.
How that started out was a guy that was going.
I think it was an oil company, wasn't it? Initially, it was Sheetz Oil.
No.
You have the rest of the story.
I have the real story. They were not a gas station.
Okay.
All right. They were a store, and what he wanted to do is he wanted to get the morning commuters. So what he did is he went to every grocery store in town where they had the fresh baked bread. And he bought up all the bread at all the stores, and it was at his store, Sheetz. So he built an audience. So you wanted fresh bread, you went to Sheetz. That's how it started. Then they got their little made to order. That's called.
So you're saying he
MTO.
made his bread on bread?
Yes, he did. And then it was made to order, which they still do. When you go to a Sheetz, it says MTO. It's copyrighted.
Yeah.
It's trademarked. It's everything. And what made to order is they have a very, very nice deli. Now they happen to have a big super plaza, of gas pumps there, and they sell gas.
Yeah, I kind of thought I thought they made their money with oil because you see, if you live in this part of the country, they have these massive oil trucks that say Sheetz on it.
Yes, they do.
And they're shiny and they're clean and they're new. And
every time they open a Sheetz for a day, they give away free gas. Everybody can line up and get a free gas.
Really?
They do that all the time. And the reason is gas now is their hook instead of the MTO, but the MTO is their number one seller. There you go in a nutshell. Story of Sheetz. I'm not going to go on, but they make their money off the food, not the gas.
I don't think I've eaten the MTO bread, but I think I'll try it. You say it's good bread?
Well, they make their own. I shouldn't say this because I know some of the people, but my son works there, and he's actually a pretty good food manager. But the point is, when I've gotten things there, I thought, so. But compared to the other like stores and even nice delis around, they're above and beyond. So, and they have a young crowd that hangs there and eats all the time. People come in, they stop to get the food, and they go, well, while I'm here, I may as well get some gas. You know? But, it's the opposite for them. Instead of going to get the gas, I may as well get some food. People go there to get the food. Well, if they need gas, may as well get that too. So
I think we just did a 3-minute commercial for Sheetz.
I think I did, and I didn't mean to do that. But, the point is, now I kind of thought the Sheetz might have been a little bit liberal, but I don't know that for sure and never really got into political talks. So I would tend to say if Biden is suing them, he just blew a chain of votes.
He went into Sheetz. He was ignored. When Trump goes into a place, it's just like a magnet. People from all over come to see him. It's like a mini rally. When Biden goes in there, it's like crickets. And I guess Biden didn't like that. And the very next day, his Justice Department sued him for, discrimination?
Yeah, if you don't like Joe, or if Joe has a bad day, it's not his fault. It's your fault. I mean, the Sheetz, that is a good Pennsylvania rags to riches story. The family is rich now. They've done well. They took, he didn't do anything bad or illegal. I mean, the people that made the bread, they made money because he bought their bread. He bought it in lock stop. And then everyone knew, you had to go to Sheetz to get that bread. And he had it, and he didn't mark it up that much because he had all the bread.
Joe is not a nice guy, folks. I'm sorry.
No,
he's not a nice
evil
guy.
Man.
But
they can't see that.
And he will.
Joe.
We talked about this on Friday, but it's a bigger story now than it was on Friday. So I'm gonna go back to it. They want Trump dead. Okay,
absolutely.
The Democrats want Trump dead. You may say, what?
No, that's true.
No, they want him dead. We mentioned that Bennie Thompson, the former chairman of the January 6th committee, the guy who was supposedly the head honcho at the one with Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and the like, he came out with a bill, and the bill, it's called Denying Infinite Security and Government Resources Allocated Toward Convicted and Extremely Dishonorable Former Protection Act. It's a mouthful, isn't it? But they want to be able to, if Trump is found guilty of anything, they want to strip him of his Secret Service protection. Now, that's like halfway through the game saying, okay, we're going to change the rules and we're not going to have any more, side judges, or we're going to change the rules on how many yards you have to run for a touchdown, or we're not going to have touchdowns anymore. They changed the rules mid-game. President Trump has the right to protection. When he left the office, there wasn't any clause in the agreement that says you will have protection unless we deem that you have been in a situation where you disgrace the position. See, the thing is, they want to be able to strip him of protection immediately. Meaning, if he's found guilty in Marchand's court, which odds are he's going to be no matter what, they want to be able to strip him of protection. So when they stick him in Rikers or wherever they stick him, he will be there alone, unprotected, and my God, Epstein, he may be Epsteined,
They'll slit his throat before he gets to the cell, and they'll say he did it. And the other thing, I'm going to take it one step further because I know how the Democrats, the people that are pulling the cards, are thinking, and I know what they've been preaching and propagandizing to the John Q public, because they sit there and they go, I've seen the memes, I've seen the post. We want this guy gone, by any means erased. Erased is the important phrase there. Let's just say they take away his protection, something bad happens or whatever it is. Now, the next step is that's not going to be enough. Oh, no. They are going to have to sit there and say, those 4 years that he served was not Trump. That was a stain on our democracy, and there was an illegitimate foul there, and we've taken his name from it, and there was no 45.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. They'll try. They are desperate. You know, I saw a picture of Hillary going to a premiere in New York last night, and this lady is either she has a double, or she's having an incredible amount of face work done, or she's doing
Hillary. I heard this.
Or she's doing adrenochrome by the gallon. Okay, because
did you notice the crowd that swooned all over her?
Well, there were a bunch of them. There weren't a lot of people swooning.
No,
I saw
there was no. There were two guys go up. Hey,
there was
a picture.
The guy who was taking the video. I thought he was going to. I won't
but
say
there was
it.
nobody,
Oh, it's good to see you, Hillary. Oh, Hillary, you look so pretty. Oh,
her
Hillary.
Secret Service was loafing in the background, looking around like there ain't nobody here, man. I'm protecting nothing.
But the guy who was doing the videotaping was gushing like you. Oh, it's so good to see you. Oh, Hillary, and that's basically, folks. I'm not exaggerating.
No, that was pretty good.
I'm not exaggerating. Thank you very much.
No, you did him well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bill, New York Democratic Congressional, we talked about what the Democrats want. New York Democrat congressional candidate Nate McMurray. You know, here's a guy who he wants to be in Congress for the Democrats. He's running, I guess, for New York's 26th congressional district. He's a big pro-Ukrainian funding guy, and he hates MAGA. He hates Donald Trump, and he said this. He said this on X.
This morning, Trump is old. He's going to die. And a lot of these MAGA people, they ain't young. And there's way more of us than them.
Well, and first you got of all, a real old guy that's running on your ticket.
Wait a second. Nate, let's just, as my cohort would say, so
back
well.
The bus up?
Yes. Can you say, wait, with a little feeling, please?
Let's back this bus up.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Okay. He says there's many more of us than there are old people. Has he heard of, God forbid, the baby boom? Okay. Now, I know it sounds old to even bring the baby boomers up, but most of us, many of us, are still here. I know we're old. We have to gum our food, and many of us have to be, led around because we get lost a lot, but we're still here, and there's many more of us still than you, Nate. And Nate, we still vote, Nate. and
Nate.
One more thing, Nate. We vote for people like candidates in the 26th New York congressional district. I would submit that you probably turned a lot of old people off. In the
and Nate. There's Gen X, and right after the baby boomers, and there's that in-between crowd there, too, and they're conservative. Mm-hmm. So you got that, and you got that other crowd. And then what's the one after that where they might be about 50, 51, 52? What was that? Generation Z, yeah.
I get them all confused. It becomes a potpourri of different letters and numbers.
You see, America's aging.
Yes, we are.
Oh, by the way, what's his name?
Nate McMurray, yes. Nate McMurray.
Nate. America's aging, and there's more older people than younger people.
Yes.
And, terribly speaking, so I don't know why. It's something that your guys did. Your generation is dying at a higher rate.
But see,
Nate.
the arrogance and the stupidity of the youth it's awe-inspiring.
But it's
awe,
but
I mean,
it's not
I
all
look
the
at
youth.
but I think to myself,
He's
wait
an
a second.
idiot.
Yeah, when I looked up the definition of the word numbskull, Nate McMurray's picture was in the book. I couldn't believe it. Nate McMurray. We're going to be, there's a lot more buzzing about you. Hey, Nate, check your facts again and get back to us. By the way, I would submit that Nate should go to maybe, God forbid, a Trump rally on occasion, and there you will find
A lot of young people.
It won't be the geriatric set there. They won't be the people in walkers with partials in their mouth. No,
Because we can't make it up to the rally. Otherwise, we'd be there too.
That's exactly right. We can't get anybody to push our wheelchairs up to the place.
Yeah, right.
But
you know what?
you're
though?
right.
I'd
Though.
have enough energy
Bill.
to kick his butt across the rally.
But Bill, they're all like you said. They're most
like a
of them are
basketball.
younger MAGA people. So I hate, dare I say, Nate, a lot of them are your contemporaries who are big MAGA supporters. So if you're holding your breath for the MAGA people to disappear. Oh, and by the way, if Trump were, God forbid, if anything were to happen to Trump, I think you'll find that there will be somebody of his caliber and his thinking who will step up and pick up the flag. I truly believe that. So I want Trump to be the next president because I think he'll bring us back to a solid footing and get rid of a lot of the problems we have. By the way, Bill, I don't think he'll get rid of them all. I don't think he'll be able to get rid of all of the
No, the
illegals.
swamp is too deep.
Yeah.
And the plan is not for Trump for 4 more years. Just so you guys know on the left,
Yeah.
the plan is for 12 more years. And so there's something in
Yes.
the pot in the back.
Oh, yeah.
If you didn't know that,
Well, I mean, dare I say, you never
the
hear
election
this,
is important.
Well, you never hear this mentioned, okay? You never hear this mentioned, but there is a Donald Trump Jr. Oh,
Why do you think
wait
they're
a
trying
second.
to go after him
And
too?
wait a second. There's an Eric Trump. There are heirs to the Trump family.
Don't say throne.
Yeah.
That's
I was
because
gonna,
when you speak
I was
of
going to
throne-
say that, Bill, but I stopped
I know,
myself.
but when you say throne, though, you think of the Clintons and the Obamas.
That's
and,
right.
Oh, dare I say? Now, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So you're sitting there, you're walking along to the store, the supermarket. Maybe
Right.
you go to Walmart or Target. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see this big, long, black, new Chevy Blazer-like limousine with guys in black driving it, with other cars that are black following it, and guys in suits with their hand inside their vest.
Yes.
As they go, would you not go, ooh, there's somebody probably important,
Very
presidential.
important.
That's
Yeah.
Well, one of those pulled up to a Target. Now, they were filming a video inside that limousine going, we're on a secret mission. I understand my new book is out, and we're going to go in. So they had a baseball cap on and a yellow jump type suit.
They're trying to be
Carrying a purse.
incognito, right?
Incognito
Yes.
with their hair in a ponytail. It was Michelle Obama.
Of course
So-
it was.
And nobody at
Cares.
all. Nobody there. She walks up, gets all excited,
Yeah.
signed 6 of the books. I would bet you right now that in a year or two's time, you're going to see one, if not all of those 6 books on sale at the five
Dollar.
and dime store
Yeah.
for about $1
exactly.
to maybe even 50 cents with
Yeah.
her signature on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because nobody was there and nobody did anything. And even when she went up to the register to buy some junk, she good junk though. It's Target junk, Target. But the clerk's going, okay, thank you. Clerk had no idea who he was. I mean, she was.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. They spent, by the way, Netflix spent $60 million on a contract with the Obamas to produce and star in documentaries and to be producers on different movies and stuff like that. And I think they produced one documentary on Michelle, which literally went over like a pregnant pole vaulter, like screen doors on a submarine. It went over. It didn't go over. Okay, let's
But
just
they
leave it
are
at that.
floating the story that Michelle, and even it was in Gateway Pundit, that they're picking up on it because it's not that I believe that she's their answer, but they, her husband or his husband, might be pushing that, going, look, honey, you go in there, and I can call the shots again. You know, there is the rumor that somewhere they have a plan that somewhere around June that Biden steps down and someone steps in, and right now the odds in favor is on the betting odds are on Michelle.
There are
Michael.
people who think that Michelle is, hasn't been totally honest with the American people for the last 10 or 12 years, that Michelle is.
I don't know. I don't
Michelle
care.
is not who Michelle says Michelle is. All right. As a matter of fact, I saw this meme over the weekend. It showed Barack sitting next to Melania, and Barack leans in and says, "I can't believe you married that man." And Melania says, "I was thinking the same thing about you." But anyway, that's
we digest, we move on.
Bada bing. But the fact
Or
that
digress,
no,
not digest.
I think that if you think that we're making light of this, go online and do some research. There are people out there who will tell you that they've been hiding a truism for at least 15 years or so. And all is not as it appears to be with regard to that person. But you know what? I keep thinking to myself,
Which means
I keep
that
thinking
Barack is not what he appears to be.
Well, I keep thinking to myself, look at the way that they're trying to normalize a certain segment of society. They're trying to normalize that lifestyle. Are they doing that so they're chumming the water, or they're getting the landscape ready for Michelle? Do you know what I'm saying? If you normalize something, a lifestyle, a choice, a life choice, if Michelle has different preferred pronouns than, let's say, I do, it would be more acceptable now, thanks to people like Dylan Mulvaney and the like, who have kind of made it the normal thing. RuPaul, I mean, all these people who've embraced that lifestyle and gone very public with it, and the media being the co-conspirators, the people who've been out there making it normal, dare I say? I don't know. I maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people say she's not going to run, but I kind of think that they don't have anybody. They keep saying that she is their hope. She is their hope for the Democratic Party. That Gavin Newsom, he may have nice hair, but he doesn't have the gravitas to make it work. She has the Obama name. So what do you think?
Interesting thing, since we're on that topic of LGBTQ and stuff like that, recent research from the Netherlands indicates that most children who struggle with gender identity ultimately no longer experience these feelings once they reach adulthood. So, in other words, this whole thing is a fabrication.
Boy, and I was listening to a guy, a father. Think about this for a second. Young father who is taking his ex-wife to court because when they had a child at about 2 or 3, she decided that she thought that her boy should be a girl. And so she started to push the little boy in that direction, much to the chagrin of the father, who said, "Hey, wait a second. He's too young to be manipulating him like this." She took him to a psychologist who said, yeah, he's a prime candidate for a chemical castration. I think that was the term. This is a little child, someone who at the time was like about 4, maybe 5. And the father is in court fighting desperately for control of the little boy so the little boy is not castrated by the mother. And the courts today are leaning towards the mother. And I thought to myself, boy, there's something so terribly wrong. Because, you do certain things to people, they're not reversible. They can't be fixed down the road.
So who do you sue when you grow up and you go, this happened to you, and you want it undone? You can't undo it.
You can't undo it. If you're a child,
mom?
if you're a little boy and your mom made you a little girl, but you in your mind still a little boy, you can't have children. You're stuck because of what your mother did to you to pacify her I don't know, her needs. It's sad, and the courts used to protect us. But I look at the Trump case, right? The Trump case, the court used to be a place where justice prevailed. Justice was neutral. Justice had a blindfold on, and justice had scales that were balanced. And that was because neither side had preference or preferential treatment. And that's not the case anymore. The case now is that there's one side that has pulled that scale down in their direction and is holding it down. Never mind putting a finger on it, or they are holding that scale down. You don't think, do you, that Trump is going to get a fair try in court? The court starts today. The trial starts today. It's going to be a circus, no matter what. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to be televised, but Trump's lawyers are going to come out with a great defense, and I'll bet you the judge thwarts them at every turn. I'll bet you the judge acts like a prosecution lawyer. The judge is going to be assisting the other side to get Trump in prison. Because I think this judge wants to be the first judge in the history of our country to put a former president in jail. I mean, this is a bad guy. I don't give a damn whether he's wearing a robe. And the other thing is this, Bill. Well, I'm on a little bit of a roll here. You might have noticed. I apologize, but it's true. Where the hell are the Supreme Court justices? Why isn't he? I know why the Attorney General is not intervening. He could, by the way. If he were an honest and just Attorney General, he could intervene and say, hey, nothing happens with these cases until the elections are done. But where the heck are the Supreme Court justices? Why don't they have an emergency session where they take all these cases and they put them all in a pot and say, you don't touch them, you don't move on them. This is election interference on a national scale. It is ruining our election system, and it will cease and desist now, not down the road. It'll stop now, But we have, where the heck is Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House? Why is, we see him passing all of the Democrats' budget bills. We see him passing FISA. Why isn't he protecting President Trump?
It is obvious that it's election interference, but you know what the left will cry if any of what you just said happens? Well, that's election interference. We got to prove he's bad.
Hey,
well, we didn't.
With all due respect, I would take a page out of the left side. To hell with it.
Well, I agree, but I'm just saying that is what they're going to say.
But we don't see them even trying on our side.
Well, I'm gonna say something I said before the show, and I'll explain after the show why I'm going to say what I'm about to say. I'm going to say a phrase that's going to be ripped off and from us by somebody else.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time. Yeah. Remember Midnight in America? It's on somebody else's show now. But you know what? We're headed for a divorce. This is like a marriage. This is like a bad marriage, Democrat and Republican. We are being pitted with all the negativity by one side in particular, but let's just say both people are at fault in this relationship, Democrat and Republican alike. And there is no finding common ground anymore. So this election is, if we get to it, it's going to be far worse. It is a divorce. We had our time together, but we all know it's over. The Democrats and Republicans, there can only be one. There can't be two, because it's sad.
Why do you think Bennie Thompson wants Trump dead? Do you know why I think Bennie Thompson wants Trump dead? Bennie Thompson, again, is the guy who wants to strip the president of Secret Service protection. I think it's because Bennie Thompson knows that he cheated during the hearings, the January 6th hearings.
Sure.
And he probably knows that if Trump gets into office, there's a good chance that Bennie Thompson may be jailed for treason, for what he did, for his participation. There has to be, I got a couple of cuts from Tucker Carlson that I'm going to play in a second. Tucker is frustrated too, and I warn our listeners right up front. You know, we historically on this program are very cautious about certain cuts because sometimes some of the audio cuts, the people become a bit passionate and they tend to curse on occasion and say things that we wouldn't normally say on this program. But Tucker, of all people, does it a couple of times because he's talking to Joe Rogan, and that's kind of the environment that Joe Rogan has on his podcast. But also you can hear the frustration in Tucker's voice. And, Bill, we don't do that. So I'm telling you, when we're going to play this, if you are offended up front, we value you, but we also think you have to hear the exact words and why they
in context of how it happened. And no, we don't do that. We're not going to do that. We've chosen not to do it. But the simple fact is, both sides are doing it now. They're laying it all on the table. This is a barroom conversation anymore. And
yes,
but
it is.
I'm not in a bar room.
But please understand that it's in the cut. And if you have little children in the room, you don't want them to hear this.
You know what? Unfortunately, they go to school, public school. They hear it probably far worse.
I know, Bill. But still,
I know you're a gentleman and a school
you
bus.
and I happen to come from, dare I say, broadcast media. We've spent our whole life in broadcast media where those things were important.
Did you ever say a cuss word and your mother heard you?
Oh, yeah, probably, yes.
You were, and there's that little.
And it probably went over
there of getting your butt tanned.
It probably went over like a pregnant pole vaulter. Anyway,
Barton Church. Yes. Okay.
Here's Tucker Carlson talking about people. Weak people being the perfect host for evil. Mm-hmm. He's talking about congressmen. Weak people being the perfect host for evil. Listen.
Here's the illusion that we fall for time and again. We imagine that evil comes like fully advertised as such. Like evil people look like Anton LaVey.
Horns,
yeah. Right. You know what I mean?
Black cloak.
Exactly.
Sickle.
Evil is an independent force that exists outside of people, that acts upon people. I really believe that. I've experienced it. A lot. And it's obvious. And what vessel do they choose? The weak. It's weak men and women who are instruments of evil. The weaker the leader, the more evil that leader will be. So and unfortunately, we've reached a time in American history where every leader is either a woman or a weak man, pretty much. And so I'm sorry to say it, that's just true. And the weaker the leader, that's why Mike Johnson, everyone's like, oh, Mike Johnson's such a nice guy. Well, I know Mike Johnson, and he's a perfectly nice guy to the extent that he's like polite and seems kind of meek and restrained, and he's not saying motherfucker ever, you know what I mean? He's got like very sort of buttoned down affect. But he's a weak man, and that's the man you should be afraid of. The people who you should be less afraid of are the, headstrong, loud, don't care what anybody thinks. Yeah, those guys will go off track, but they're probably not going to abet, genocide or blow up the world in a nuclear exchange because they may be obnoxious, but they know who they are. Weak people just become a host for evil. An open, empty building that evil occupies, possesses even. And that's exactly what's happening to Mike Johnson. It's like absolutely crazy what Mike Johnson is doing. But it's not because he's evil. It's because he's weak and therefore susceptible to evil. It's a meaningful distinction that I have noticed.
Isn't that amazing? But it's true. Yeah. You gotta wonder. You look at Mike Johnson, he seems like a nice enough guy, but he doesn't have any cojones, as they would say in Mexico.
No cojones. You never know where evil grows. But then I will say this too: you don't know what the whole picture is. You got to hope for the best. Maybe he has to go this deep and far and off to the left to sit there and pull back and go, see, there's what we needed to show you.
Yeah, I had somebody say maybe he was down visiting President Trump about a week ago. Down in Mar-a-Lago, and maybe what they're trying to do is maybe Trump said, "Look, go along with everything the left wants to do for the time being so that we can show the world just how evil and corrupt they are. Just you take all of the slings and arrows and just go along with them. If they say, they just passed the Ukraine budget in Congress, and all of the left, all of the Democrats stood up in Congress cheering, waving Ukrainian flags. Mind you, these people would never stand up and wave in Congress the American flag, but they're waving the Ukrainian flag on the floor of the House of Representatives, the left. And by the way, let me play what Ro Khanna is a big lefty Democrat. What he said on ABC over the weekend. Listen to this.
Congressman Khanna, does Speaker Johnson deserve credit for how this played out?
He does. Look, we came into Congress together, and he always cared about civility. He actually led the civility pledge.
Right. Yeah.
And we had one issue, which was give individual votes. Don't lump things together. And I give him credit for doing this. I would actually vote to table any motion to vacate him. Chairman McCall quoted Churchill. One of the things Churchill said is that America always exhausted every wrong option until doing the right thing. Yeah. And this shows that American democracy still is very strong.
Okay, you just said something significant. You said you would oppose the motion to vacate. In other words, you will protect Speaker Johnson's job if Marjorie Taylor Greene and the others go through with their threat to try to remove him.
I would, through the end of the term. I expect Speaker Jeffries will be there in 2025. But look, I'm a progressive Democrat, and I think you would have a few progressive Democrats doing that. And I disagree with Speaker Johnson on many issues, and I've been very critical of him. But he did the right thing here, and he deserves to keep his job till the end of this term.
So you got to ask yourself, did he do the budget the Democrats wanted so they could not remove him from the speakership? I'm just saying. It might be.
I don't know. There's so many cards in play. We don't know what's happening out there. We know what we want to happen, and it's not going the direction we want it to go. And, it's hard to say. I guess it is what it is. The end of the day, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Tucker Carlson had another little thing he added on the Joe Rogan podcast about congressmen being afraid of being attacked by the intel services, because apparently they have little picadillos they don't want the world to know about. Listen.
And he goes to fundraisers and dinners, and everyone's like, hey, Mike Pompeo. It's like, no, you're the guy who kept information the public has a right to know secret. You're the guy who plotted the murder of someone who committed no crime. You are the outlaw. You are the bad guy. But no, he's treated as like a pillar of Republican Washington. I think it's mind-bending to watch that. And by the way, whatever. That's all I'll say.
By the way.
No, I mean, people don't say that because they're worried about getting punished. They're worried about someone putting kiddie porn on their computer.
Right.
Members of Congress are terrified of the intel agencies. I'm not guessing at that. They've told me that, including people on the intel committee, including people who run the intel committee, the people whose job it is to oversee and keep in line these enormous secretive agencies whose budgets we can't even know. They're black budgets. They're the parents. The agencies are the children. They're afraid of the agencies. That's not compatible with democracy. Democracy is a really simple system, even representative democracy like ours. The people rule. They do so through elections. They express their preference through voting. They send their people to the capital city to run the government on their behalf. Whenever you have unelected people who are not accountable to anyone making the biggest decisions, you don't have a democracy, you have something else, another system. I would call it a tyranny or whatever you want to call it. It's not a democracy. So that's super obvious. It's playing out in front of everyone, and no one cares and no one does anything about it. And I think the reason is because they're threatened. And if you look at the committee chairmen who allow this shit to happen year after year, they're all, and I don't know, people say, they're compromised or being blackmailed or whatever. I don't have evidence of that, but I know them. And they all have things to hide. I know that for a fact. And so it's not a stretch of imagination to imagine that some committee chairman who's allowing warrantless spying on Americans to continue, or whatever abuse they're allowing, knowing fully or hiding the truth about UAPs, ignoring the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023. Like, why are they doing that? It's not impossible to imagine that some guy with a drinking problem or a weird sex life, and that's very common up there, that's why they're doing it. Because they don't want to be exposed. I don't have evidence of that. I don't have proof of that.
Right.
But that's not a crazy thing to assume that could be happening. And I said to somebody, a very powerful person, the other day in a conversation in my kitchen, an elected official, holds a really senior position, a very famous person. I was going crazy. I was so mad about all this stuff and about the warrantless spying and about the funding for these insane wars. And I said to the guy who serves in one of the legislative bodies, I got so mad my dogs were afraid. They're like, well, why are you yelling? Because I don't yell at home. But I was like, all these people are controlled. They're all, got weird sex lives, and all these things are hiding, and they're being blackmailed by the intel agencies. And he said, and I'm quoting, I know. It was like, okay, so at this point we're just sort of admitting that's real? Like, why do we allow that to continue?
The guy says, I know. That was his response. The guy who is a senior member, an important member of Congress, after Tucker goes into a rant about how these people are perverts and they are compromised, the guy goes, I know.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talk about somebody that is a pervert and compromised. There is a story out today. Former Barack Obama and Hillary senior policy advisor charged with child sex.
Yeah, I saw that.
But he's an offender. Yeah.
Yeah.
That might explain, maybe those cages that we heard about during the Obama-Biden administration. They tried to pass off on Trump and say it was him, but maybe,
Bill,
maybe that was their playpen to hold him in.
4 months ago, we had a story and a video to go with it of a senior aide to a Democratic senator having sex, a certain type of sex, of sex with another person. I was going to say gentleman, but they weren't gentlemen. They were doing it on the desk at a hearing room in our Capitol. It was one might say it was a insurrection. I mean, maybe that's the wrong
nice
term.
play on words. There you go.
But the thing is, it was real. It happened. You would if this was Bill, if this was a Trump aide, it would still be major news. But because it was a Democrat, it was brushed aside and summarily dismissed, and nobody talked about it after about maybe 3 days. It was gone. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, but there are two separate rules. One set of rules for the Democrats on the left, and one set of rules for the Republican. Do you think that they would be going after a Democratic president trying to take the Secret Service away from him? They would be pulling their hair out, screaming. There would be protests in court. But, the Republicans are a poor excuse right now for a party. They are not. Trump has said this. There's MAGA, and then there's Republican. And they're not always the same. They really aren't always the same. And it's true.
I have the rule book here, and for Democrats. Yeah, I mean, Article 1, there are no rules for us.
That's true. And that's true. How true. But, the MAGA people have got courage, and they've got intestinal fortitude. The Republicans, all they're thinking about is, what's in it for me and power, and, I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire so that I can screw the people in my district, but I may get a job at CNN for $1 million a year. We had a guy, Tony Gonzalez, I think his name is. He is a representative. He went on CNN, and he called other Republicans, his cohorts on the Republican side of the aisle, he called them scumbags on CNN. But, he did it for a reason. He did it because he wants a job. Let's face it. When, somebody over at CNN may have said to him, Representative Gonzalez, you should be thinking about your retirement plans. And you kind of like it here in Washington. We see you have a home and a family. And, we probably can give you a real comfy position with a contract if you come over to our side of the fence. And we're not saying you have to leave the Republican Party, but we don't want you to be quite so supportive of them. Maybe
disenfranchise yourself.
Maybe on occasion, kick them in the groin if you wouldn't mind on camera. You do that a few times, you got a guaranteed job here, and we can turn to you on camera and say, and here's former Republican leader of the House, Tony Gonzalez. What's your opinion, sir? Well, I think they're all scumbags. Well, there you go. That they love this kind of thing.
They love insults.
They do.
And nastyisms. And, that's interesting because, you go to Facebook and you got your friends. Yeah. And a lot of the left has dropped right people. But, you look at the people on the right, with very few exceptions, they don't post anything negative. Yes, I'll post our show, but I don't target anybody with it or anything like that. And then I go in and I go and delete the old shows. And I have other posts, too, that are just fun. I'm just saying I'm promoting our show because,
sure.
We're on it, so why not promote it? But I don't sit there and go, well, if you don't listen to this, you're an idiot, because I don't believe that you should treat people that way. But on the left, well, if anybody that likes Trump, I can't be a friend with because they're even stupider than he is. Well,
Bill,
you know what?
You are a stronger person than I am. I've given up on allowing comments. I just don't do it because when I post
there is no reason for Facebook. It's supposed to be.
Well, let me tell you what happened with Facebook.
Promote your own thing. Oh, I know.
We had our 600th show on Saturday. 600 episodes. That's the numbered episodes. We did 175 unnumbered episodes. So in total, we, as of Saturday, did 775 shows. That's a lot of shows.
They corrected you and slapped you down.
Well, I posted, I put on, I made some comment like, this is our 600 numbered episode, 775 altogether, and we couldn't have done it without you. I very general. It wasn't like a statement of any specific fact about something or someone, and they blocked it. Facebook blocked it. They did a fact check, like they know how many episodes we did, and they were going to stop us from putting that. So I changed I made it a much more gentle intro, but I still posted the show. But they can do things like shadow ban and things like that, and they have the ultimate control. And some days you may never see us on Facebook because they may decide we're too controversial. Now, mind you, Bill and I both, our background is professional broadcasting. I've spent a long time. Yeah. I was going to give you a number of years, but
we have double long times here.
Yeah, we have and we didn't work like in the little dinky stations that broadcast down the street, and that's about it. We both worked in what they call major markets, big stations in big cities. And, we have standards, and those standards were honed and developed in professional broadcasting. We don't swear for the most part. We may say, damn, or something like that on occasion. I apologize even for using that's an example. But the fact of the matter is, our shows are much more universally presentable. I mean, we could take our show, for example, and stick it on a radio station, or an AM terrestrial radio station, and it would pass the standards. It would be something that you could play on the biggest talk stations in the country, and it wouldn't be out of place because we do it like it's a regular talk show. We don't do it like we're amateurs working, for the first time in radio. Hi there, welcome to my podcast. We don't do that. We try to sound like we belong here, and we try to respect you as an audience. Mm-hmm. But we have these juveniles at these social media platforms who are going to tell us that we've done something wrong. Well, you can't do that. Well, we don't think it's appropriate, and you said this, and it's out of place. And hey, I won't say it because it will come across the wrong way. But the fact of the matter is, we are in a situation where we're being judged by the inexperienced, the unprofessional. The unprofessionals and the inexperienced are judging the experienced professionals. That's where we are. And that's a scary thing to be in. Hey, before I forget, 700 migrants from the People's Republic of China
That's right.
have been apprehended in just 1 week for illegally crossing the California border from Mexico, according to a new report. That was like in 1 week, 700 migrants. Because, China's a border country to the U.S.
Well, I was going to bring up that story, actually, before we ended the show. By the way, I just handed a note to my son because he's going down to go to work at Sheetz, and where it says,
Say hello to
Biden
Joe.
suing Sheetz. Well, he's like he did because he doesn't know the story. He'll have something to say when he gets home, I'm sure, about it. But either way, with the 700 migrants, that takes me back, going way back in time during the Biden and Obama administration. Didn't we sell a lot of farmland to
Oh, yeah.
Chinese?
Oh, yeah.
So actually, they have a business here because those are all farmers coming in with guns.
Of course they
gotta-
are, yes.
Yeah, because that farmland.
Someone
in
has
Texas,
to work those farmers.
Yeah, somebody has to work them. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of them are by military bases, and those pesky military people, man, they come over and they cross over the fence line. You might get your cattle.
That's true. They've said that if Trump gets into office, there's a chance that a lot of those land deals are going to be reversed, and they're going to be repaid for the land that they bought, but they will not be allowed to own the land because much of the land they bought, call me crazy, is right next to important strategic military bases.
Yeah, and whoever sold it, if it was their property, don't give it back to them.
Yeah.
They already.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Don't give it back to them, and don't give them their money.
Well, if the government buys it back, that land should be annexed to those military bases.
And well, then the person next to that will do it. There should be a law that it's a federal offense, especially next to a military base. You own property next to it. You can develop it. You can do what you want, but you do own that property right next to a military base. There has to be some rules and
you have a responsibility. You're absolutely
responsibilities. Correct. Otherwise, you know what, buddy? You're going to spend some time in jail.
Hey,
because you did something you weren't supposed to.
One more thing, we've had a lot of rioting in the major cities and stuff like that. You probably have heard about those things where, Black Lives Matter walked up like Fifth Avenue and they were breaking windows and stuff. Well, New York City storefronts aren't as alluring as they once were. The brutal statistics coming out of that big bad city are kind of predictable when you think about it. As of 2024, 11.2% of the city's storefronts are sitting vacant. This is up from 6%. It was 6% in 2019. So it's gone up 5.2%. But they are saying that's it translates to 86% increase from 2019 to 2024. That's a massive jump. I don't know about you, but if I owned a business, one of the last places I would want to be right now would be on Fifth Avenue. And all of my life, having a store on Fifth Avenue was like the piece de résistance. It was the cherry on top of the whipped cream. It was the place you wanted to be because it was Fifth Avenue in New York. Now you can't give the stuff away. You can't give the storefronts away. I mean, you walk down the street and you see famous stores that have been on Fifth Avenue for decades and they're boarded up because the administrations in those cities run by, dare I say, Democrats have allowed lawlessness to run rampant. You see, if they ran it like a city that had a real police department and real laws, it just wouldn't happen.
Let me point out two commonalities here. Number one, you could probably take the top 10 major cities, at least most of the top 10 major cities. Wow, they are all run by Democrats. The next commonality of those top 10 cities, they're all in debt above their head.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
Can't pay their bills.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
so
but that being
why
said,
do you think we're in charge of all those cities? Because you're here to screw us over.
They're still taking their money and paying those illegals to come into their city.
Oh, you're damn right they are.
They're putting them up in nice hotels and giving them money and food. You know, in the meantime, veterans in those cities are sleeping in the alleyways and over grates. It's awful. You know, when I worked in New York, even back in the late 70s, I'd walk down to from 52nd Street down to Grand Central Station, and I would walk down many times Fifth Avenue. That's where, if you're not familiar with New York, St. Patrick's Cathedral is on Fifth Avenue. Some of the, like I said, nicest stores in the world are even in that 10 blocks. That's a showpiece. It's a great place to be. But I would walk by on the coldest days. They would be homeless people who would get these big boxes and they would put them over heating vents from buildings. The buildings would vent their heat in the wintertime. And so if these people wanted to live, because sometimes the temperatures got down to zero, they would be in these big boxes over these heating grates. Mm-hmm. So they would be heated in these artificial makeshift domiciles made out of cardboard. And we allowed that back then. But we're supposed to be an advanced civilization. We're supposed to be ahead of this now. You would think if we can take strangers from different countries, criminals and the like, who come here illegally, and if we can find a place that's warm with a bed and give them meals and give them subsistence, you would think that we could do this for our own people who are in need, but we don't. And that's the Democrat way. And by the way, I blame the Republicans too. This is a failure of our government. Our government has got to get off its ass and start taking care of its own. You know, and we can't wait. You know, they cheered for that budget that is going to pay for guns and armament for the Ukrainians, so that a war will continue. These same people will turn around in almost the same breath, and they will scream for peace in Gaza and those nasty Israelis for wanting to continue that war and bringing it to a resolution. They're hypocrites.
Yeah.
They really are. And anyway, we could go on and on. Do you have anything else you want to add, Bill, before I...
You know, we didn't mention the story yesterday. You know, racism comes in many colors. Baltimore, which is a city that is broke. The mayor there, who's taken a lot of classes, if you speak his language.
Yes, he has taken. Yes.
Yes, he's taken some major classes there, and
yes,
he might have even taken an engineering degree. Now he's taken some money. Apparently, he has announced millions of dollars in black-only arts funding, including Black Leaders Wax Museum. Comptroller says the city is broke. So he's doing that. Now, where is he getting the money from? Well, he said last week that white-ran businesses were for too long getting public dollars. So he is going to divert COVID funds to non-white businesses. In other words, the black-only arts funding, the Black Leaders Wax Museum. You know, why not fund it for everybody and let's get your city out of the toilet?
I got something for you. Along those lines,
here
we can end our show with it. It's only 1 minute and 26 seconds long.
Sure.
This is Trace Gallagher from Fox News doing a story about the L.A. mayor. Listen to this.
Well, the Fox News and Common Sense Department is watching the mayor of Los Angeles abandon a major campaign promise. 2 years ago, Karen Bass told voters if they put her in office, she would solve homelessness. Now she's in office, and she wants the voters to solve homelessness. Mostly the rich voters, mind you. The ones Mayor Bass calls the, quote, most fortunate Angelinos. So she is asking the same people who pay 70% of the taxes to donate a bunch of money to help the city acquire more properties to house the homeless. Common Sense would like to point out that homelessness in Los Angeles isn't just creeping up, it's dashing up, increasing 80% from 2015 to 2022. And that's likely an estimate because, in case you did not hear, California is not really great at bookkeeping. In the past 5 years, the state spent $24 billion on homelessness, only to see the problem get worse. And nobody knows where the $24 billion went. So when the rich donate this money to acquire these properties in Los Angeles, where a one-bed, one-bath house is $1.5 million, what happens then? Who pays the taxes, the upkeep, utilities? Is L.A. going to foot the bill? Or is this an annual pickpocket of the most fortunate? By the way, the new program is called LA for LA. Common Sense thinks IOU for LOL might be a bit more appropriate.
That's Trace Gallagher from Fox News. So be it Baltimore or Los Angeles, be it the Atlantic coast or the Pacific coast, the Democrats are still finding a way to screw up their government.
Well, this land is your land. Oh, hell, it's not. It belongs to the Democrats from shore to shore. Da, 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 da,
Hey, Bill, have you got any money on you? I want it.
I don't have a damn dime.
That's probably because,
DD.
yeah, you've been approached by other Democrats.
DDD, damn dime broke. There you go.
Anyway, hey, listen, if you want to contact us, all you have to do is go to our website. Our website
got one of
is,
those?
yeah, we
Cool.
do have one. It's www.itsanotherday.com or www.jimandbill.com. That's JIMANDBILL. Got to spell the whole thing out. Jimandbill.com. And we have our phone number and our email address and the contacts and former shows. It's got everything right there. All you'll ever need about us.
We are fancy. We are highfalutin, man.
Yeah, we are.
I can't believe it.
I think we're done, Bill. You can put a fork in this thing. And all we need to have you do is your traditional subtle ending.
Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.